right, hopefully you can hear me. We got a freeway over there. So I went ahead and I put the Demon wheels on. So I added some new things to it. As you can see, I put new rotors on. I have the spacers. I think they're 2.5, and new brakes, of course. And then and then added the wheels to it. So far, so good. They poke out on the car, which is good for the body kit. So just to give you another profile, you can see kind of how she's got some hips to her. So that'll be good for the body kit because it'll be flush once it goes on. So I wanted to really make this video to kind of address the issue. I wanted to address the issue for the trunk lights. I didn't make a video for it last time. I kind of just forgot about it, to be honest. She's a little dirty, so don't mind that. But for those of you that want to wire this center light right here. Okay, so after pulling out the 2 screws, so there's going to be little small silver ones on the inside. Then you have a Torx head screw that's on the interior. Another thing I forgot was these. Gotta pop these off too. And so now, finally, it should come out. Good Lord. There we go. All right. So after years of trying to get this out, as you can see right here, this connector was spliced in. So what I did was I took the old connector off that fit onto the other one, and I spliced in this new one. So that's one of the ways that you could do it, but if you notice right here, I had to cut these off as well. This part just didn't go to anything. It's basically, it goes to this power trunk portion right here where you press it, but you don't have that feature on older Challengers, so you just snip it. There's no reason for it to be feeding into here or doing anything else. It's not gonna work for you. We don't have that. Most Challengers don't have a proximity sensor on the trunk unless you're dealing with a newer one. And what I mean by newer one is probably like maybe a 2013 model or newer. And then those ones, I think, started coming with proximity sensors and other stuff like that, to where you put your hand underneath the door cup and it'll pop it out, or it'll unlock and things like that, and going by the trunk and pressing on it, and it has a soft pad. So for here, all I did was I snipped these out, switched out the connectors, and I believe I did get this pigtail from a junkyard. So yeah, I got the pigtail from a junkyard. From a newer Challenger. It was pretty simple. As you see, there's no color coding on the wiring. There's no real way to do this because it's just a light. It's just a light sensor. And I believe that these 4 wires, what are these, 4 or 5? The 4 or 5, it just have to do with reverse lights, and then these lights, and I think that's pretty much it. It's not really complicated, but if you're doing a swap on yours, just make sure that you get the pigtail for the center light off of your newer Challenger. Snip your old pigtail, because it'll be an old one. Snip your old pigtail off, swap out the old with the new, and you should be good. And as you can see, even here, the older harness, it does have 3 wires, and the newer ones do have 4. So, you know, checking out, getting a wiring diagram really helped me out when I did this. So go to your local Dodge dealer, get a wiring diagram for the center tail light for your newer Challenger and your older Challenger, compare notes, and then figure out which wire is the ground, which is the power, which is the reverse. Wire those together, and then you should be in the green and it should work. Got it on, off, on, and you get the picture. So I bought a new trunk. It has a new spoiler on it. The spoiler on this one I got is aftermarket. It's okay, but I think this is for an SXT model. It's much smaller, so the one that I have is more off a Scat Pack. It's much wider, much thicker, much taller. No rear view camera. It's not gonna really work anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and install that, so just stay tuned. So this is the new deck lid I picked up. It's got a little bit of light scuffing on top and other things like that, but this is off of a 2015 Plus model. It's got some damage here, some clear coat damage, a little crack here on the spoiler. I'll be getting the car painted hopefully next month, so that's not too much of an issue. Get some paint and body work done. But this one should actually fit. This one should actually fit and sit flush with no spacing issues with the new rear bumper that we have on the back. And everything, so we shouldn't see any of that gapping that we see on my old one. None of those gaps on the side, or it should all sit flush. As you can see, it's not really sitting flush unless I push on it. It looks flush from a distance, but you can still see some minor imperfections in this area. You can also see how far the trunk has to sit down. Has to be down in order for that to sit flush. And I think the reason because these were made for the much thinner tail lights. There's a metal piece behind these, as you saw when I pulled this center light out. That metal piece is a little bit longer, considering that these are much bigger than those other center tail lights from the earlier models. So that metal piece is longer and it sits a little bit lower, so it clips in to the lock a little bit easier, snaps in easier. But as you can see, it still has that spacing issue. Even on this side, it's still low, even if it looks correct. Even if it looks correct here, it still is not entirely flush. And it's actually a little bit more noticeable from this side if you look at it from this way. You can see how much that sticks out. It's not supposed to look like that. So that's what we're gonna go fix today. Stay tuned. So here we have the trunk off, as you can see. We've taken it off by the hinges, considering that the older trunk, or that the newer trunk already has the hinges. So it's gonna make it a little bit easier, especially since we have these kind of like guidelines to where we can see. And when we screw it in, it'll be a little bit easier to work with. We've got the old trunk right here. So we'll be replacing this. Just a note, there is a connector that's right here that pops into this slot. That's exactly the same as from old to new. It's exactly the same, so you don't have to worry about that. Also, there is a ground wire that you need to remove from here, from the newer trunk. I'm sorry, from the older trunk. Remove, actually it's on the other side. Here we go. There's a bolt right here that goes to a ground wire. You gotta pop that off. You have to pop out the connector that's here, and then you run the rubber grommet that's behind here, this one, back through the trunk, and then that's how you get the wiring off the trunk. and you're able to fully take it off. We had to kind of pry it out because the connector that we had didn't fit through the hole. So as you see, we had to pry it in some areas to kind of get the hole to flex to get it through. But right now, the way we're looking, we've got the new trunk prepped right here to go. So as you can see, we still have a little bit of the newer pigtail. We just got to swap that out as soon as the trunk's on. We do some fitment placement issues, or I'm sorry, fitment placement, and should be ready to go. So we'll be right back with that. Deck lid on, lined up right where the old one was. So do some testing on how it looks, you know, seeing how it goes. It's looking pretty fresh. This one's got the Dodge symbol or Dodge sign or Dodge lettering on it. I can already see that extra gap that's in here. That'll hopefully bring it down to match with these a little bit better. So once I get it all wired up, get this old wiring out of here, get my protector up and everything, I'll come back and show you how it's done. Oh, one tip is these holes are threaded here, so there's no real type of adjustments that you really need to make. It's going to pretty much line up flush as soon as you start tightening it. I just recommend somebody probably just hold it, but it kind of lines itself up and places it in there. These ones are also threaded, so it kind of lines itself up, but these have a little bit more play in them, so you kind of have to follow the guidelines of the old hinges. That's if you remove it from here, but we didn't. So yeah, and the same for this side and here too. Just make sure you follow the old indentations, and then the indentations on the plate here, the actual trunk lid holder here, and yeah, you'll be all right. It should line up perfectly each and every time. All right, so I'll be back with it. Okay, so after some adjustments and everything, the trunk itself, you have a little bit misalignment here, a little bit, but if I adjust the little stoppers that are down here, let's see if it's open. Let me pop this thing open real quick. So if I adjust these little stoppers right here, it'll mess with the alignment for the trunk here. So I managed to adjust those to the right height, get this, but this is misaligned, so this probably has to do with the hinge, most likely. This other side is much better, and it's also, the stopper is aligned on this side, so it probably is the hinge, most likely. But getting it closed, you can tell the body lines right here. Move it out the way, pretty much straight. This one needs some work. And I'm guessing it's just a hinge problem because the stoppers are the exact same height on each side. I adjusted the latch quite a bit up and down. I played with it for a long time. It seemed to work pretty well, but it didn't really have too much effect on this side. So I'm guessing it's most likely the hinge that could be slightly off, that might be raising it. So if it's too far forward, it'll raise up maybe. That's my theory. But for now, we got the spoiler on there. Everything else looks pretty good. It's got a black trunk hood, so it's got a little bit of damage on it, a little bit of scratches, as you can see. I gotta take her through the car wash. But yeah, like I said, let's get this thing into the paint booth and go from there. Still slight protrusion. Like I said, it could be the hinge. That's probably why this side's protruding. But if you look at this side, if you look at this portion, it's flush. Just like it's flush right here and unflush over here. So it's most likely the hinge, because it's unflush here and also unflush right here. So it's most likely the hinge is too far forward. Up here, one of the hinges is probably too far forward. So I'll get that worked out with the body shop. I can't play around with it anymore. I'm kind of tired. So this is what it looks like. It's getting there. Next is the wide body kit to put on there. You got to adjust a little bit more body lines right here after the swap. This little piece wouldn't fit in correctly. Most of you probably don't have that issue, but I do. So, like I said, I'll get that sorted out with the body shop, get the wide body kit on here, and get her in a paint booth. All right, thanks for watching.